Romania holds one of the planet's most valuable natural treasures. A vast wilderness of towering mountain peaks and pristine forests that provide a habitat for thousands of species of flora and fauna. As we've seen in previous episodes of Wild Carpathia, this priceless ecosystem is under threat from man, but still remains probably the most unspoilt region in Europe. In this, the final part in our trilogy, we'll be travelling north from Transylvania to explore the historic Maramureș, a landscape rich in culture, where the old ways are jealously guarded and medieval traditions coexist alongside modern life. We'll experience more of the country's stunning national parks, take a steam ride through the mountains and pay a visit to Bukovina's inspirational painted monasteries, which serve as a canvas for some of the finest examples of religious art in the world. On the way, we'll be looking at how culture, adventure and ecotourism could provide an alternative solution to stem the flow of illegal wood that pours out of Romania and offer a more stable and long-term income for its rural populations. If you're going to explore the far north of Romania, it's a good idea to start your journey from Cluj, a buzzing town which owes its renaissance to the spirit of creativity. As we'll see, these remote landscapes have been inspiring music and art for millennia, and Cluj has become the hub for a new wave of painters and artisans whose bohemian studios here in the old paintbrush factory underplay the stir they're causing on the international art scene. Also worth seeing are the extensive botanical gardens dating back to 1872, which house a huge collection of rare species of plant, but more importantly, provide an insight into this region's native flora. The Maramureș is a region famed for its cultural integrity. Ancient wooden villages and churches, the likes of which you won't find anywhere else, cluster around the rolling foothills of the Carpathians and offer a vital bridge between past and present. Skills and techniques for working with wood are preserved and nurtured and enable the continuation of a historic architecture and design unparalleled in other parts of the country. While existence is tough here, with baking hot summers and Siberian winters, the people of the Maramureș have a decidedly upbeat attitude to life and its cessation. This is the Happy Cemetery in Sprunt, less of a graveyard and more of a tribute to the people who lived here. What's so wonderful about this cemetery is that it's not about death, it's a celebration of life, people's stories. Listen to this. Under this heavy cross, my poor mother-in-law rests. 3 more days she would have lived. I would rest and she would read. You who are passing by, not to wake her, please try, because if she comes back home, she'll criticize me more. But I'll behave so well that she'll not return from there. You who are reading this, don't get into trouble as I did. Find a good mother-in-law and live in harmony with her. Wise words. To truly experience the Maramureș, you need to immerse yourself in its traditions. Religious festivals play a pivotal role in the annual calendar, with celebrations taking part in different villages throughout the year.
pentru miros de bună mireasmă domnicească, ne trimite nouă Dumnezeescul har și darul Sfântului Duh să ne rugăm.
During the summer months, perhaps the most common reason for communities to come together, as with other parts of the world, is to attend a wedding. Although here, they do things a bit differently, as I found out when I joined renowned folk singer and poet Grigore Leșe.
Charlie, am ajuns în sat Sugătar, la nuntă. Încă Mara Mureș să mai țin nunțile astea. Ia, femeile bătrâni spun la porți, copiii mici în brață, uite aici oamenii de bine rău sunt îmbrăcați, ceterași-s ceterași, cântă, mai rău, dar cântă. La mireasă să cântă, femeile așteaptă, părinții asta ce? Minte n-aș bine mirele după ea în casă, s-o iei de la părinți și o duce la el acasă, adică mireasă de-am înainte, cărările ți-s oprite. Ce pune întrebarea, Doamne, ori merită să mai investim în asta, în cultura tradițională? Eu zic că se merită. Până la urmă, oamenii înțeleg, ia, se adună, au străiți, uite, cojoace, toate, clopuri, horinca e horincă, de 100 de focuri. Să aibă tinerii noroc, să aibă tinerii noroc. Charlie, aceea ta! Ia!
Ia?
Hai să mergem să vedem mireasa.
Hai, și iară, hai! Sunt și Marie, la străin, dacă-i soță!
Eventually, the groom arrives with his family and the other men of the village to pick out his fiancée from the assembled womenfolk. And at long last, everyone can make their way down to the church to formalize the arrangement. Music not only comprises a vital part of communal events like these, but it also documents and defines the place it originates from. It can evoke the spirit of the landscape it was born in, reflect the voice of its people, and help safeguard their history and identity for generations to come. Grigore explained more as we visited the village where he grew up.
Aici venim vara, venim iarna, îmi făcea săniuță iarna, mă jucam până pomni ăștia, până copaci și horem și mă încercam glasul. M-au auzit vecinii, până sat și opre pe mama și zicea, tu năstăsâie tu, a tău e copilul. Am eu dar, hei, zice, da horește. Hei, că dragostile cele mari dai, da. Hai că stau în drău, stau în drău, ca doi pândari. Ce mai mare minune pe lumea asta îi horitul. Că horea te scoate din suferință, îți dă nădejdea și te face fericit. Eu astăzi sunt fericit că sunteți pe grădina strămoșilor mei. Aici, încă cenușa vieții e aici, cenușa lor e aici. Eu viu cu horea asta și vi aduc. De astăzi, din seara asta, Când soarele se pregătește să se ducă la culcare, sunteți în inima mea. Eu n-aș cânta, doar aș muri.
The floral meadows, orchards and lush pastures of the Maramuresh provide an ideal environment for apiculture. Here, bee numbers are thriving thanks to an absence of large-scale intensive agriculture and the commensurate use of pesticides and chemical fertilizers. Nomadic beekeepers still remain a common sight on roadsides, their trucks laden with hives and their wares on sale to passing travelers. How did you first get into beekeeping?
Părinții mei aveau albine. A fost și este o îndeletnicire foarte plăcută și foarte utilă și numai în natură și iubesc natura ca pe cei mai sunt.
I've been stung twice in the last couple of minutes. How do you avoid getting stung the whole time?
Da. Și eu am mușcat 50-60 de albini pe zi. Foarte sănătos veninul de albine. Subțiază sângele. Primul cules e acela noi la pomii fructiferi. După aia mergem la cules la rapiță. După aia mergem la cules la salcâm. După aia ne reîntoarcem acasă la polifloră. Și după aia mergem la floarea soarelui, pe care le pregătim pentru iernat.
Can we have a look inside?
Da, o să vă arăt acum. Cum de asta le calmăm. Am stors acum de 2 săptămâni, acum iară să plinesc ramele. Familiile sunt puternice și este cules. Bun, să vedem, miere proaspătă, asta e băgată de alb. Acum o să gustați.
Super.
Organic.
Organic. Is there a way of protecting the bees, given the fact that fertilizers and pesticides are being used more and more, even here in Romania?
Deocamdată în România e foarte greu de a proteja albinele, pentru că parcelele de pământ sunt foarte mici și fiecare face cu pământul lui ceea ce vrea. Ar trebui făcute niște asociații puternice și acționat pentru oprirea folosirii pesticidelor. Să se folosească produse organice la tratamentele plantelor. Deci dacă se continuă așa, ne omoară albinele la noi, la stupă.
In response to the march of cement culture, several organizations have sprung up to educate and train new artisans in the necessary skills to help preserve the architectural landscape of the Maramuresh, like this project in the hills south of Baia Mare.
Am observat că casele vechi, tradiționale românești de lemn, dispar de peste tot în țară și am încercat să facem un spațiu în care să îmbinăm nou cu vechiul.
So in effect you're building a small community here.
Da, practic vrem să transformăm un loc într-un loc de evenimente culturale, să aducem tineretul, să învețe elemente tradiționale românești, tehnici de reparație a caselor și tot ce ține de case vechi și case noi.
Along with initiatives like these, the Maramuresh is waking up to the need for authentic places to stay, combining old world ambience with creature comforts. A good example is this eco-lodge nearby Sprunt, owned by sculptor and potter Daniel Lesh, who has rediscovered ceramic techniques dating back to the early Dacians and uses them to weird and wonderful effect. That evening I was joined by friend and singer Loredana Groza, whose reinterpretation of Romanian folk roots has inspired a new generation.
It's such a pleasure. I don't know why I'm so lucky to be here with you guys.
It's beautiful, isn't it? I mean, we're right in the
Yes.
heart of the mountains here.
It's nothing like reality, you know, like seeing and touching and smelling.
Smelling, talking of which.
Yeah, oh, look what you have
we
here.
have the traditional
Yeah,
soup,
here it's a traditional dish. It's cooked very Hajduk style or Robin Hood style. It's made of meat, of course, and vegetables and a secret ingredient.
Okay.
It's a sour soup, like a chorba. Since I was a child, my mom used to give us at noon and sometimes even at dinner this kind of chorba. It's very good because it's light and also it fills you, which is good when you have to learn, to work, to travel, and to create. And my music is inspired of old Romanian songs and Romanian rhythms, and I'm trying to make them understandable to the younger generations. Sometimes when you're a teenager, you think everything that your mom or your dad is listening to is a little bit old-fashioned or uncool. And what I'm doing is trying to connect all these ages, because all these lands, they have their own music, their own sound. And every generation put their imagination and their soul and creativity, and we are living on the shoulders of our ancestors.
As you say, you've travelled the world, and I've noticed there's something quite unique about Romanian culture. It's the way that people still embrace and treasure their past traditions.
And the best route for this trip.
Romania is facing a crossroads. Its two greatest natural treasures, its forest and its medieval landscapes, are in danger of being lost due to uncensored modernization and illegal logging. Huge tracts of land have already been destroyed by the reckless greed of those prepared to sacrifice their legacy for financial gain. The extent of this problem can be clearly seen in and around the Fagarash Mountains. But it's not too late. There are those who are working tirelessly to save this crucial ecosystem. I caught up with one organisation hoping to link the Fagarash Natura 2000 site with adjoining national parks and areas of private land to safeguard remaining sections of pristine forest and create what might hopefully become the biggest wilderness reserve in Europe. That is quite a specimen. Elm tree, yeah?
Yes, it is the mountain elm. I saw a similar one in the Semenik National Park, in the old growth forest, and it was about 400 years old. So this one probably has the same age.
So this elm was quite fortunate it didn't get cut down?
It was lucky because now it's part of a protected area, and it is part of the property that FCC buys for conservation. So he will live as long as he can.
Nature dictates, basically.
As he can, yeah.
Tell me, obviously, you're taking areas of land and conserving them. How does it all work?
Well, 7 years ago, the group of conservationists and philanthropists got together, and they came to the conclusion that in order to save those forests here, they have to try to buy the forests. We are trying, and we are buying all the forests that are available to be bought in order to save them and to preserve them for perpetuity. And this is one of the important goals of the foundation.
So the only way to really ensure that the forest is safe is to own the forest?
Yes. We are trying to restore the forest with the original type of forest, and that should be an example to be followed at least in the Natura 2000 sites.
Do you have difficulty convincing the local people that this is going to be of direct benefit to them?
Yes, there are some difficulties because they are afraid that if there are restrictions, they will not get the compensations. But the number of the visitors will increase a lot in this kind of natural areas. And we are not talking about visitors for ski resorts or hotels. We are talking about visitors who enjoy the nature and who enjoy wilderness. And we have to admit that in Romania we have only 1.4% from the territory as national parks. So I think there is space for more.
How are you going about
reassuring people?
We have to start to communicate more with the people. We have to start to bring examples, because all over the world where is a national park, there were a lot of benefits. And the value of the wood from a forest, it's represented maybe only 30%, because monocultures and managed forest you can find wherever. So this area on long term is very precious, and we have to try to preserve it like it is now. We learn at school that through forestry we are saving the forest. And after years I realized that it's not quite like that. To save the forest you have to leave the nature to do its job.
It's great to see chainsaws being used constructively for once. This is part of an FCC initiative with the help of the EU to repair the damage caused by logging tracks that crisscross these mountainsides. What happens is very rapidly, due to soil erosion, they turn into trenches and then ravines. So the idea here is to cut up all the dead wood that's left lying about and to fill them in, to cover them over with earth and then to replant. So in 30 or 40 years' time, you won't even know they've ever been here. Ensuring the safety of wild Carpathia is not just down to its present-day inhabitants. The best way to guarantee its survival is through environmental education. Sadly, something that is currently a low priority on many school agendas. To combat this problem, an international charity is launching a fleet of purpose-built battle buses to tour remote areas of the country and teach children the importance of biodiversity and ecological issues. It's encouraging to see so much positive change taking place in areas like these. There is hope, and many high-profile figures are now lending their support to champion the need for conservation. Not just of the forests, but also the historic villages and pastoral setting that surrounds them.
Your Royal Highness, how can we preserve this wonderful landscape?
Well, I mean, it is a challenge, I think, in today's world. I mean, part of the real effort, I think, is in trying to persuade people just how precious it is. So it's how do you provide protection and sensitive development? Because the key, obviously, you can't stop everything, but is to work, I've always felt anyway, if one can, to work with local people who 9 times out of 10 all around the world don't want to see their environment destroyed. But they want to find ways of ensuring that their lives can be improved and they have better opportunities, but within a living tradition, whether it's the built environment or the management of the landscape. The terrible problem I've always felt is that people so often go through a phase of, oh, well, none of this, you know, it's all old-fashioned and out of date, doesn't matter, irrelevant, you know, it's old things, chuck them all away. But later on, people suddenly realize the value of all this, by which time, if you're not careful, it's too late, because you know, you've knocked so many things down or allowed all sorts of insensitive development. And clearly there's huge demand for food and everything else, but it does seem to me that one of the most vital aspects of all this is how you work with local communities, how to help ensure the survival, the future of the smallholder. This part of the world, you know, it's not, you can't plough it up. And if you did, you'd release vast amounts of carbon, which is completely counterproductive. The meadows are, in European and global terms, utterly unique. I have never seen anything like it. There's nothing left like this. And this is a jewel in Romania's crown. It may be difficult for people to see this now, but I think Romania is a wonderful country. They are remarkable people. They're so resilient, and Romanians have had such a horrific experience throughout their lives. And so many people, when you think of 2 world wars and then all the other horrors between the last war and until now, people have been through so much, seen so much misery and destruction. Their lives have been ruined in so many ways, and you know, I think we owe it to them to try and find a way to ensure that the future is better for them, but in a way that enhances the culture, the traditions, and the values. But unless you have, you know, the quality maintained, that integrity which attracts people because of the beauty, and how to raise the standards of accommodation and everything else on offer, it's going to be very difficult, it seems to me, for so many of these places to survive.
You were personally involved in the restoration of the house here in Zalampatak.
Absolutely. I mean, I was very lucky because I found wonderful people who knew what they were doing, and it also helped to train local people in all these skills. In fact, they're innate still, these remarkable skills that people have. I just want people to understand what you could do to these houses to make them suitable for modern living, but you know, you can have the best of the ancient and the best of the modern. These are such special things, and we need biodiversity and human and cultural diversity. The danger of, I think, massive globalization is that before we know where we are, we've lost our identity and our meaning, and that's a dangerous moment, I think.
The rural communities and the forest are inextricably linked. As tourists pay to stay in villages like Zalampatak, so too will they explore the Carpathian hills and mountains, contributing to their continued safety and preservation. With the right approach, this magnificent wilderness could become the Yellowstone Park of Europe and bring its people a far more sustainable income than the short-term gains obtained by felling vital forest. The tide is beginning to turn and will gain momentum with every visitor that comes here to marvel at this arboreal Eden. Romania is the warden of a vast natural landscape, the likes of which the rest of us have in our greed and ignorance destroyed. Let us hope that this beautiful country and its unique people manage to do better than us, not just for the sake of the bears, the wolves, the lynx, or the thousands of other species that rely on these pristine ecosystems, but so that all our grandchildren can grow up in a future where wild Carpathia still remains one of the world's greatest natural wonders. Search of the European brown bear and find out why this elusive species is so vital to the survival of the environment. On my way, I'll be meeting a dedicated group of individuals whose passion for this area is helping to redefine its importance as one of the great surviving wonders of the natural world. These include a Transylvanian count who is working to conserve some of the most ancient of Carpathia's medieval villages, and His Royal Highness Prince Charles, who can trace his ancestry back to Romania's dark and distant past.
The genealogy shows that I'm descended from Vlad the Impaler, you see. So I do have a bit of a stake in the country.
As it were. With its deep gorges, cliffs and windswept bluffs, Carpathia is a popular destination for lovers of adventure sports. People come here from all over the world to rock climb, kayak and get back to nature. But for many Romanians whose parents were herded into cities by the communist regime, the mountains offer something far deeper, a chance to reconnect with their rural heritage. To get a feel for the geography of this unique mountain range, I joined Mihai Constantinescu, leader of the local Alpine Association, his wife Mihaela and their friend Nicoleta Carpignanu for a two-day trek through the Apuseni region.
Yeah, finally.
Thank you. Yeah, these roads are a bit labyrinthine.
Must get used with this.
Hi. Nicoleta. Hi. So where exactly are we going?
They will going to have around 15 kilometers.
Yeah.
We'll set the tent tonight and tomorrow we'll do the rest of the trip, and finally we'll reach the daffodil fields. That is very spectacular, and we have to be there because now they are fully bloomed.
At their very best.
Yes. You see, that's the traditional way of harvesting the woods.
Yeah.
They are using horses for that, to carry the woods. Yeah.
And this would be
This is wood
for
will
the
be
firewood,
used,
isn't
yes,
it? For the
yes,
for the
exactly.
oven. Yeah.
Will be used for fire.
As you head up into the hills, the terrain rapidly grows wilder and the forest closes in around you. This is a world so ancient and unspoilt that our presence feels as ephemeral as the footprints we leave behind us. All my life, I've dreamt about visiting the Transylvanian wilds, but where Bram Stoker describes a sinister and haunted landscape, instead you find yourself in a world more redolent of Tolkien.
This is actually the longest cave in Trasco Mountains. It has more than 2 kilometers of caves and galleries.
So this great chasm is a system.
Promoting survival is helping them get a proper price for the goods they produce, bringing innovative marketing means to support traditional production methods.
In many ways it seems that these smallhold farmers are custodians of the landscape because their continued survival ensures the survival of this ecosystem.
Yes, let's hope we can keep as much of it as we can. Who knows, in 10 years' time, this will not be the same.
Well, it will be here in 10 years' time if everyone comes to look at it and experience it and enjoy it.
Yes, look at it, enjoy it, and support the local economic system. And the system will continue.
Perhaps the best way to explore these gently undulating fringes of Carpathia is by mountain bike. A set of trails has been built through the surrounding woods and hills, linking Viskri to its neighbouring villages. And whilst there's nothing too challenging, it's a great way to see the countryside. I arrived back to the village at dusk, in time to witness one of the most iconic spectacles of rural Transylvanian life. Early each morning, the cattle, individually owned by members of the village, take themselves out to pasture. In the evening, they unerringly manage to find their way back again.
For anybody who thinks cows aren't intelligent, have a look at this. They know exactly where they're going, they don't need to be told, they just peel off into their respective homes. As Romania's economy is developing, the environment faces ever greater danger. With much of the country's biggest natural resources either under the ground or sprouting out of it, the impact on this mountain paradise is increasingly costly. This is one of thousands of illegal logging operations that are taking place as I speak in the mountains of forest of this area. Look at this tree, you can count the rings. It's over 100 years old. It's not even selective. Well, it's selective in as much as they take the largest and the oldest trees, cart them off. It's a tragedy.
Deforestation is the greatest threat facing this wilderness. As far as the government is concerned and the people who have been restituted land here, Carpathia's main value lies in its prime timber and mineral deposits. For a country struggling to catch up with the rest of Europe, this region is, literally in some cases, a gold mine. Insufficient resources to police such a huge area and a reluctance to do so makes it almost impossible to prevent such wide-scale clear felling. On top of this, the absence of planning laws is giving rise to a spate of new and often ill-conceived developments, like environmentally damaging ski resorts, hastily built to take advantage of the influx of foreign tourists.
If operations like this one are allowed to continue due to greed and corruption and the demands of the Western world, then the forests of Carpathia will probably disappear within the next 10 years.
But with Romania still such a poor country, it's hard to argue that they shouldn't be allowed to exploit their natural resources to improve quality of life. I've come to the frontier of the forest near Zarand with friend and environmental activist Radu Mot to visit one of the last people whose existence remains untouched by the wheels of progress.
What a glorious place to live, but how isolated. We're here to meet a woman called Varvara, who's been living on top of this mountain all her life. Her husband died 24 years ago. She's got no running water, she's got no electricity, and no one around her for miles. It's a tough life.
It's a tough life indeed. Bună ziua!
Bună ziua!
Ce mai faceți?
Iată, treaba și cu greu. La
Charlie,
mulți ani, la mulți ani.
How does she survive up here?
She has some cows, but nobody will buy the milk anymore.
So she gets no income,
no income
whatsoever. You have problems with wolves here as well, obviously.
Da, frică, nu, ce să
The
faci?
wolves killed a dog last autumn. The wild boars is destroying the crops.
And she's got no one else to protect her if they come, you know.
Just the dogs.
They don't look very fierce, I have to be honest. So she purely subsists off the vegetables she grows and from the milk and the livestock.
Exactly.
And water, what does she do for water?
Examples of how rural tourism can benefit local communities without impacting on the environment.
One thing about Romania that I always find surprising is you drive down these roads in the middle of nowhere and you come to these little pockets of civilization.
And then you have something like this.
And you have something like this at the end of it.
Have a look at the main house. We have 3 rooms here. Been quite some painstaking work restoring all this furniture.
And your carpenters did the veneers and did all of this?
Yes, yes, and the polishing and the upholstery and everything. And even these electrical fittings had to be restored.
And the paintings?
Paintings, most of the paintings have been hand-picked by HRH.
I love this. This is a carpet, presumably.
Yes, these are Turkish and Caucasian antique carpets. Once they are too old to be kept on the floor, we put them on the walls.
Well, it lends a warmth to the room,
absolutely,
which I imagine you need in the middle of winter, because it gets quite
definitely
cold here, doesn't it?
Exactly, you got it right, yes.
I've seen this colour on certain buildings in parts of Spain. Is this a traditional lime wash here?
Yes, here it's called Transylvanian blue, and it's a characteristic here for serfs' houses, for stables, for houses that are not dwelling houses. So this is the old stable building, which we converted a bit to a more comfortable place.
Yeah, just a bit. Well, it's a fabulous place to come and hide away. What's the inscription there? I got the Wales bit.
Yes, it's a tradition to document the dates of building and renovation in houses in the main beams. So this one reads, this house has been renovated by Count Tibor Karnocki in 2009 for the Prince of Wales.
It's so satisfying watching craftsmen at work. It's immaculate when they put the tiles in.
Yes, I wonder how they get it right. It's not so obvious, actually.
No, it is like doing a jigsaw puzzle, really,
Yeah.
I think. Tell me, Tibor, why did the Prince of Wales fall in love with this particular place? I mean, I can see it's very beautiful, but why here?
I suppose it is because it's a place where the local population still lives in total harmony with the environment, with nature. And it is not complete and total wilderness like up in the mountains. It is actually handmade, but it is the perfect cohabitation of man with nature.
It's easy to forget in such comfortable surroundings that the forest is still only a few feet away from the back door. A fact I was reminded of when I took a quick stroll in the adjacent hills. Walking up through fields of orchids along the edge of the tree line, you are completely immersed in the natural world. I never dreamt that I would actually see bears in the wild outside of Bearhide, but here was a sight I'd been hoping for all along. Proof that man has yet to ruin this pristine and innocent landscape.
This is incredible. I can't believe my luck. Look. This is why the Carpathian forests, mountains and villages need to be preserved in all their untamed glory. Not just for the benefit of future generations, but to ensure the survival of Europe's most endangered carnivores.
If something isn't done, then this verdant paradise will become as ecologically barren as the Highlands of Scotland. Once covered by magnificent forests of oak, beech and pine, now bare with new saplings grazed into submission by a wildly inflated deer population. But it's here I've come, on the last leg of my journey, to meet one of Carpathia's greatest crusaders, His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales.
The key thing I think about Romania, and Transylvania in particular, is that there's so much we can learn from, it seems to me. It is the last corner of Europe where you see true sustainability and complete resilience and the maintenance of entire ecosystems for the benefit of mankind, and also for nature. And there's so much we must learn from that before it's too late, I think.
So presumably this is why it's so important to preserve it for the future.
Well, I think so, but you know, people will say, oh, well, you know, she's just trying to preserve things in aspic, or you're trying to prevent progress and so on. But you'd think by now we might have learned a few lessons from the things that have gone wrong with an agri-industrial approach to everything. Because the great thing, it seems to me, about Transylvania is the combination of natural ecosystems, the forests and the agricultural areas, together with the human cultural systems. And it's this extraordinarily unique, integrated relationship which is of such huge importance. Once you pull it all apart, you're left with something which can just be exploited without being treated in a sustainable way, if you see what I mean. Because if you cut down great swathes of the Carpathian natural forest, you're actually destroying one of nature's great services to the rest of mankind in terms of carbon sequestration.
Given the fact that the rise of industry and agriculture has led to the almost total destruction of the Great Forest of Caledon here in Scotland, do you think that there's a way of stopping the same thing from happening in Romania?
Well, we should be clever enough, wouldn't you think, by now, and wise enough to
We'd hope.
that some possible lessons to be learned in avoiding that from happening. But otherwise, if we just go on the same way, you end up with destruction occurring, and then people later on are saying, hang on a minute, you've got to try and put this back. What is the point of running into the proverbial brick wall, this time of such a painful sort, that by the time we realize that we have to redesign our food systems and put nature back at the heart of the whole process in order to provide us with what we take for granted, how are we going to be able to put it back? Yeah. So I think Transylvania is an absolutely key issue that has to be addressed.
What do you love the most about Romania?
It's the timelessness of it, which is so remarkable. And almost out of some of those stories one used to read as a child, it's quite remarkable. People are yearning for that sense of belonging and identity and meaning. And we have to rediscover some of these aspects of the way we produce food and live with and maintain and give back to nature if we are to make sure this whole system continues. And that's why human cultural systems matter, because they're intimately linked to that aspect of nature. It's in us, but we've somehow denied it and thrown it away and said it doesn't matter, it doesn't exist, it's irrelevant. It isn't irrelevant.
Nourishes the soul and the heart, absolutely.
That's what Romania does for you.